What's going on, guys? My name is PS Archer, and today I'm going to be telling you guys about the time my neighbor got arrested by Homeland Security. This is a pretty intense story, and I can't wait to tell you guys about it. So if we could hit 10 likes on today's video, that would be greatly appreciated. Hit 10 likes for another awesome story. But anyway, let's hop right into the story. So this story takes place a couple of years ago. I was probably 10 or 11 years old when this was told to me. My neighbor at the time was 14 or 15 years old, and he was a freshman in high school when this happened, and he told me this story. So anyway, a couple of years ago, my high school took a trip to Spain. And basically, my high school goes on trips to Europe every year. Like, they go over April vacation. There's a bunch of teachers that go. You get to go with your friends. And 60 or 70 kids from the school go. And they basically tour around, like, a particular country. Like, this year it was Greece. Last year, I believe it was Italy. The year before that, I think it was Germany or something like that. But anyway, he decided to go on one of these trips, and that particular year they went to Spain. So he was in Spain, and it was their last day in Spain. They were getting ready to come home, and they had to wake up really, really early one day for a flight, so they didn't get to eat breakfast at the hotel or anything. They went right to the airport and got ready to go on the plane. So at the airport, there was some sort of threat level going on. Like, you know, guys know airport, like, threat security levels. Like, you'll hear it in the airport all the time. We are now at threat level yellow. This means that any unintended baggages or whatever, we have to call the bomb squad and stuff like that. But, yeah, so basically the threat level at the airport was orange or red. I don't remember particularly which one it was. I don't think he specified, but it was just a very bad threat level. And basically, when this threat level was in play, you were not allowed to be by yourself if you're under the age of 16. I don't know if it was because the cops were nervous that you might get, like, killed by a terrorist or something, and you'd be all by yourself or something, or they think that you're actually a terrorist. I'm probably leaning towards the side of the cops think the terrorists are using little kids to, like, attack people or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the reason I'm going with, because of the outcome of this story. So anyway, they're waiting at the gate, waiting for the plane or whatever. My friend or my neighbor is getting very, very hungry, and he said that he was going to go over to the, like, coffee shop or whatever on the other side of the terminal and grab something to eat. So he leaves the group without notifying any of the teachers, and he has no clue that this rule is in play, that, like, if you're found by yourself, you will be arrested. So he walks by himself, he goes inside the coffee shop, and then he said he's ordering, like, donuts or coffee or something, and all of a sudden, a cop comes up and taps him on the shoulder, and he turns around, the cop's all like, speaking at him in Spanish, and pretty much screaming at him in Spanish and pointing at him, and he had no clue what was going on. I guess she assumed that he was a Spanish-speaking person, which he's not. I think, at the time, I think he said he had a very basic understanding of Spanish, and obviously, when a cop's yelling at you very, very fast in Spanish, you cannot understand it. Like, I mean, I take Spanish now, and I can understand Spanish if you speak really slowly. Like, if you speak at a very constant tone, I can understand it, but if you go, like, a million words per hour or whatever, I can't understand you, and it basically just sounds like your tongue flapping back and forth in your mouth, like, and if you can understand that, props to you. You are just eons ahead of my mental capacity, but I cannot understand fast-speaking languages, and it's true in English, too. If you're speaking too fast in English, you won't be able to, I just can't understand you. You have to be speaking at, like, a good constant tone, like I'm speaking with you guys right now, like, this is what I like from all languages across the board. But she was like, obviously she's a cop and she needs to interrogate this kid because he might be a terrorist or something like that. So she just starts screaming at him in Spanish very, very fast. And apparently, my guess is she was telling him to put his hands in the air and get on the ground so she could handcuff him. But he doesn't know that. So all of a sudden, like, all these other cops just start running at him. They're blowing their whistles and stuff like that, as well as they have assault rifles. But they weren't pointing them at anything. I think in Europe, a lot of the airports and train stations, stuff like that, all the security cops there actually have assault rifles. I don't know why it's different in the Europe versus the United States. I'm not 100% sure why, but it was basically a bunch of mall cops, he said, with, like, a bunch of M4s or whatever rifle Spain uses of choice, whatever, like, military weapon. They're just running at him. They have their, like, weapons at the ready, but they're not, like, pointing them or anything like that. So anyway, they're like, get on the ground, or they're saying the Spanish equivalent of that, and they're just pointing at him, and he has no clue what's going on. So he said he just put his hands up in the air, and all of a sudden they just jump on him, and they just start tackling him to the ground and, like, handcuff him and stuff like that. My guess is because the lady told him in Spanish to, like, get on the ground, and he wasn't responding. And obviously, if you're in America and you're telling somebody to get on the ground, ground. They were not getting on the ground. You'd call for backup. So anyway, they tackle him to the ground, they handcuff him, and they bring him to airport prison. Now, at this time, he says that he was brought down to airport prison, and they figured out that he was not a Spanish speaker, so they brought somebody that spoke English in, like one of the cops could speak both English and Spanish. So he started talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I'm on a school trip, like, I'm not a terrorist, blah, blah, blah. And they, for some reason, were having a very, very hard time believing his story. So anyway, he gives a description of his chaperone for the trip, and apparently at this time, the chaperone is apparently walking around in the terminal looking for him. So he told me that he thinks they approached the chaperone and told them that they had like him down in airport prison. And the chaperone needs to go see him. So the teacher walks in, and like he said they bring in the teacher, and she's like, the cop is like, do you know him? And the teacher's like, yes, I know him, good, but our plane's leaving in like 10 minutes, we have to go. And do you know what they said? They said no. And apparently, guilty by association, they thought the teacher was his partner in crime and like terrorism or something like that, or his handler for the terrorist like event or whatever that might be going down. So anyway, the cops are like, he said the cops were being really, really nervously speaking with each other in Spanish. And he said it was absolutely terrifying because he couldn't understand what they were saying. So for all he knew, they could be saying, oh yeah, we're going to kill him now because we definitely know he's a terrorist or something like that, even though he wasn't, and it was just a huge misunderstanding or something like that. So it said it was very scary. They sat both him and the teacher down at a table, handcuffed them to like these bars that were on the table, and they were just all talking amongst themselves in Spanish. He said it was very, very scary. And then, so the English-speaking guy says, all right, you guys are coming with me. So he puts them both in separate rooms, locks the door, and then he said all of a sudden another cop comes in and tells them, like, and starts patting him down and stuff like that, and they start, like, they do the bomb thing or whatever, where they put, like, I don't know what they put on your hands, but they put something on your hands that, like, identifies if explosives were there. They're sniffed by dogs. They even had to strip search him, he said, and it was very, very uncomfortable. So at that point, they released him from airport jail. I guess they figured that he was not a threat to the airport or to the plane, I guess. I don't know. But he was still considered, like, a person of interest, I guess. I'm not 100% sure what he said. But he said at that point, the cops basically in presidential bodyguard formation. So if you guys have ever seen movies where the, like, bodyguards all surround the president and you can't see the president on the inside of the bodyguard turtle, they put him and the teacher in separate turtle things like that. And they walk them up to the jetway of the plane, and then get this. So anyway, they're standing at the jetway, and then they put him into rooms again, right, like around that like area of the gate, and they have to search him again and do all this like bomb stuff again, making sure that they are like completely clean, they can get on the plane. So anyway, at this point, all the kids just have to get on the plane and stuff like that. They already delayed the plane by a ton, so at this point, they let them on the plane. They have to sit in these special seats in the back of the plane and stuff like that, and the like Spanish Homeland Security or whatever gets on the plane, and they sit him down, and then the Spanish Homeland Security gets off. He tells the flight attendant something. The flight attendant comes over and says, hey, you guys are not allowed to get up for any reason. You are still, like, being detained by, like, the Spanish people or something like that. I'm not sure, like, Spanish. What do you call people from Spain? Spaniards? Spanish? I'm not 100% sure, but you're being detained by these people or whatever. You're not allowed to move. If we see you get up, we're gonna have to call the tower and blah 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 blah. It's gonna be a huge issue. So anyway, they sit down in the seat and the plane takes off. They go all the way back. They're flying into New York, I believe. And he said once they hit the ground in New York, like, they thought everything was fine. Oh, we're gonna be fine. Apparently, the Spanish people decided to call the Department of Homeland Security and, like, defense and stuff like that to have them meet them at the airport. So, the plane lands, they move up to the jetway, they allow everyone to get off, and they have to stay on the plane, and all of a sudden, the FBI, with, like, all their guns and stuff like that, their riot gear or whatever, he said it was just a couple of guys, they just get on the plane. Like, they aren't even like, go, 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 clear the room. He said it was people that you'd see, like, maybe out of, like, if you guys have ever seen, I don't know, but cops in riot gear and assault rifles and stuff like that, they had that. They weren't getting on the plane. They're like, go, go, go. They got on the plane. They're just talking to, like, the people and stuff like that on the plane. And he said they got on. They're like, come on, you're coming with us. So they brought him down some steps on the outside of the plane and threw him in the back of, like, some Homeland Security van and took him away to, like, some location in the airport. So anyway, they're back in airport jail, and they grilled him. He said they grilled him for a good, like, 3 hours, asking him if he knew, like, all these names. He's showing him pictures of terrorists terrorists and stuff like that. And the Department of Homeland Security was having a really hard time believing this kid was not a terrorist for some reason. I don't know why, but they really thought they were associated with terrorists. So anyway, at that point, like he said, after the interrogations or whatever, blah, blah, word problems or whatever, but after the interrogations were done, he said, but it took a really long time. They got him in the back of a truck, brought him around to the front of the airport, and then let them off. And here's the thing. He never got his luggage back. So apparently, I guess the Department of Homeland Security felt the need to take his luggage off the plane, or the Spanish Department of Homeland Security felt the need to take off his luggage off the plane. His luggage was in Spain at that moment, so he never got any of his stuff back. I guess they're still hanging on to this at this point, keeping it as evidence. It's probably in an evidence locker somewhere in the airport of Madrid. But yeah, so that's the time that my neighbor accidentally got arrested by Homeland Security. He said it was a very scary experience, and at that point, they were stranded in New York. We live in Vermont, so that's like an 8-hour bus ride or whatever, and the bus had left. So pretty much what he said, what had to go down was that his parents had to call the airport, they had to get plane tickets for him and the teacher, and then they had to fly into Burlington International Airport later on that evening. But yeah, he said it was a very scary experience, and I hope you guys found the story interesting. Again, if we could get to 10 likes today, that would be greatly appreciated, and I'll catch you all later. See ya.